I haven't come across a true way to teach understudying without doing it, which is what so much of the ethos of this program. You don't know regional theater until you do it. You don't know this kind of process until you do it. You don't know this kind of theater until you do it, right? There's so much that is only experiential. And so a big part of hearing folks say, yeah, I did it and then I can do it. And now I can do it. Now you have a superpower, Mizha, and all the EPRs who've gone on, right? You saved the day.
This is Arts Educators Save the World, where successful artists and their mentors talk about how arts education transformed their lives. Hey, welcome back to Arts Educators Save the World, a podcast where artists and their mentors talk about the impact that arts education has had on both of their lives. Today, we have the privilege of talking not just to an artist and her mentor, but to a team that met through an arts-based mentorship program. Jeff Moser is the director, and Mizha Lee Overn is a graduate of the Milwaukee Repretory Theater's Emerging Professional Residency, or EPR, as they refer to it throughout the interview, program. And the really cool thing about today's episode is to hear from a person whose job it is not just to mentor somebody as part of his professional practice, but to design mentorship for a whole group of emerging artists at the intersection of professional theater, where Milwaukee Repretory Theater is one of the largest and most successful regional theaters in the Midwest, but how they think about their role in training the next generation of theater artists. We're going to hear a lot about the business of theater and how they mentor around the business of theater, which is something that's new for us. Typically, when folks talk about mentorship, they're talking really about the intricacies of the practice, how you learn to play the harmonica better, how you learn to think about yourself as a glass blower, less about the professional or business side of an artistic life, an artistic career. So I'm excited for folks to hear about the business of theater and about this incredible program that Milwaukee Repertory Theater hosts, and to hear from one of its most successful young alums. Enjoy. All right, everybody. Today on Arts Educators Save the World, we get Midwestern. We are coming to you from the Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison Triangle, and I am thrilled to welcome actor, singer, comedian, and illustrator, graphic designer, Mizha Lee Overn.
Oh my gosh, is from... Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm not done. Mizha is from Mankato, Minnesota, where she also studied theater and media arts at Bethany Lutheran College. She is a busy working actor. You can find her at theaters all across Chicago and Milwaukee, Cocandy Productions, Theo UB Cabaret Theater, and, important to our conversation today, at the Milwaukee Rep Theater. My light internet stalking has also revealed that Mizha is a rising comedic star. This past spring, she participated in the Victor Wong Showcase at the Second City, which trains and mentors emerging AAPI comedic talent, which I also would love to hear more about. Mizha, welcome to Arts Educators Save the World.
Thank you so much, Erica. I am so excited to be here. Was not expecting you to do a little intro on me. That's really fun. I was like,
ooh. I like to do my homework, and I think it's really important because even though the mentors, as you know, are the real stars of our show, it is the artists who bring the mentors into the conversation and who make that possible. So I am going to invite you to bring the star of our show into the conversation today.
I would love to. Okay. I am so excited and honored to introduce the award-winning director, producer, devising expert, podcast host, professionally trained clown, lecturer and author, and just all around skillful and kind-hearted individual, Jeffrey Moser. He's been trained with numerous theatrical icons and institutes such as Augusto Boal, Liz Lerman, as well as the Theatre de l'Arte International School of Physical Theater, the Pig Iron for advanced performance training, Improv Boston, and Shakespeare Behind Bars. I have a little bit more too. He's an incredibly driven and passionate theater maker devoted to uplifting the craft of ensemble-based theater and sharing with the world how immersive, generative, and experimental performance can benefit all our lives. He gifts his perspective to the theater community through countless productions, his podcast From the Ground Up, and his work as the director of training for the Milwaukee Repertory Theater's Emerging Professional Residency Program, which is where I had the joy of meeting Jeff back in 2023.
Yes. Welcome, Jeff.
Yay, welcome,
Thank
Jeff.
you. Oh my gosh, that was so sweet. Thank you, Mizha. I can't start now with these. I can't start with this now. Thank you, though.
I will be joining you, I'm positive, in the little waterworks.
And I have learned, if nothing else from this podcast, having someone introduce you is like such a meaningful activity. I had no idea, right, that an introduction itself is a gift of a kind, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what's funny about that is that it Mizha, I am realizing what maybe you thought is important about me, or what's maybe I think is important about me, and so it really is delightful to hear some things iterated back to me. So thank you for thinking of me in that way.
And it's such a joy to be able to explore a little deeper into your like wide skill set, because I mean, I've worked with you at the Rep, but we didn't talk hugely about like all of your training and the productions that you do personally. So it's been really, really fun to do some research of my own.
Well, let's dig in. I love to start these conversations by asking you both to reflect on the first time you remember working with one another and what that experience was like. So have at it. What's the first time you all remember working together?
That's a really good question. I feel like I feel like the impulse for me to talk about Mizha was like our very first interview. Like when I was interviewing her
I was
for the
going to say
residency
the exact
program.
same thing.
Yeah. I feel like I remember we were Zooming and you were on a bus. You were headed to a choral concert, a competition. And I had this moment of being like, oh, I hope this works out. I want this call to work, or I hope that we don't get lost. And I just had this anxiety of like, we got to get it in before the bus goes through a black hole and we lose each other. And I just remember you did go into a black hole and we lost you to a video call. And I was so stressed, and I was like, oh, and I was like looking through my notes to find your phone number to like make this happen. And I think I gave you a call back and texted, and we made it happen. And it took us a hot second, but we finally found each other. And I just
You're
remember
telling me about the anxiety. I was sweating bullets on the bus. I was telling my choir director, I was like, I have a really important interview. If I could have your help. She was like, you got it. She stood up in the bus and was like, everybody be quiet. Mizha has an interview. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was so nervous because I wanted this so badly, because I had been doing research about different acting apprenticeships around the country, and the one that stood out to me the most was yours at the Rep. And I was even going to go back and say, like, from just emailing with you in like preparation for the interview and everything leading up to it, like, you were just always so kind, attentive, and like the updates you would send, you would be like, I'm watching all of your audition videos, no speeding through it, no skipping through it. I watch every second of everyone. And like that really made an impression on me of like, oh, he like actually cares about us as people, which is shockingly few and far between, unfortunately. But It was such a gift. And yeah, the whole bus interview was such a lovely time. It very anxiety inducing just for logistics sake. But like once we actually got talking, I was like, oh, he rocks. I was like, he's really cool.
So talk about the residency program. Tell me, what is it? What is it like? Jeff, maybe give us a little bit of the history, and then Mizha, kind of talk us through your experience in this kind of professional artist training.
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. So Milwaukee Rep's Emerging Professional Residency Program has been around since the 60s, and we've been trying to nail down the exact date of when we started taking artistic interns at Milwaukee Rep, but there is no record for it. I've been digging around since I've become the director of training here. And so I always say it's our 50th anniversary for all of the 2020s right now. It's our 50th year. At least that's what I pretend.
Yeah.
And so we've been in the 50th year for about 3 years now, and it's been really
That's what
great.
I'm going to turn 50 next year, and I plan to do the exact same thing.
Perfect.
I think this is a delightful move for middle-aged people. I'm 50, and then the next year, it's my 50th year. I love it.
My 50th year, right? So much to learn now, even now in our 50th year.
Yes.
And
That's
so, it's had different iterations called the artistic internship and otherwise, but it's been beyond artistic internships. It's been production internships and stage management internships as well. And so generally, well, it had changed somewhere along the way into the emerging professional residency, and we call it a residency because we treat it like, doctors have residencies, right? You are in a space where you are learning from someone who has done the job and is doing the job right in front of you, before you, right? And so it really is, whether you call it a residency, an apprenticeship, an internship, it really is watching. It is an apprenticeship in the sense that you are watching somebody else do the craft while you yourself practice the craft. You're coming out of undergrad, you are coming out of a space where you were in practice, but now you need to put your rubber hits the road in a professional setting. Whether that was either you came out of an MFA or a BFA or a BA or wherever you came from, or if you were just out practicing. We take individuals from all across the country at all skill sets in that regard. And having the chance to meet these individuals who have ambition, who are motivated, and who have talent and are ready to be in this space where they are preparing themselves to be professionals is the big thrust of what this program is and what who we try to take into the program. And it's identifying the talent, the ambition, seeing those things in individuals, and that people are ready to do this at the professional level after having had the chance to train themselves in some way. It's really important. And so we take. Currently, we take 8 actors, 2 directors, 2 stage managers, an education and engagement administrator, a costume construction individual. This program has been a little bit nebulous in that it's shifted ever since 2020. Even then, we've made it much more sustainable for individuals who want to be here. So, we increase the pay for all people who are here. Everyone who's here gets a weekly stipend. Everyone gets a relocation stipend to come to Milwaukee. And we provide housing and all the internet and all the things that you can get in that housing as well, utilities and whatnot. And then those individuals stay with us for a good chunk of the season. Mizha was here for the full season when she was here, 23, 24. Most people are here for the full season, but sometimes we have actors who are here for a 2 or 3 show run, and then they start the season, then they might leave in January, or might start in December and they might start in October and leave in April or May. And so the length of the acting residency can vary from person to person and track to track, because they are understudying multiple shows throughout the season. And we try to cast people who are going to be able to hit all of the roles that they are assigned to, or that they have purpose in every single room that they are in, being an understudy. So that's a big part of the practice, putting that practice into work while they're here. And yeah, stage managers, directors, education engagement, costume construction folks, they have, what they do from day to day is very clear mostly, right? You're in the shops, you're working, you're in the classrooms teaching, you're et cetera, et cetera. But for the actors and directors who I am their direct report, I'm checking in with them all the time, being like, what's it like in your room? What's it like with your overstudy? What's it like being an understudy on this show? What's communication been like? Who do you want to talk to? Who's in that room that you want to be spending more time with? And so I spend a lot of time asking them questions, to be introspective and learning a little bit more about what they can be gleaning from the room that they're in.
Mizha, can you talk a little bit about that experience? First of all, I'm fascinated by the idea of the understudy role as apprenticeship and what that means and how that's different from being hired as an understudy, which I think is a job, not so much a residency. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And then, I'd love to talk a little about the specific ways that Jeff kind of supported you in that difference between being an understudy and being in residence as an understudy. So what was that like?
Oh, I honestly, talking about my time with the EPR program is one of my favorite things to talk about. I simply had, quite honestly, it changed everything for me. I come from a really, really tiny school in a really small town. We have a theater BA where we never go into the business side of theater. We very rarely get into performance side of things either. We have acting 1 and acting 2, and that's it. Don't get me wrong, I love my program, but it's not like the souped up BFAs that a lot of my peers have. And so when I was applying to these apprenticeships, they were kind of my lifeline, because I have known since I was really, really young that I wanted to be an actor, and I felt really passionate about it and wanted to follow through with it. And it felt like, because I didn't go to a conservatory or a BFA program with well-known faculty and staff, I felt like one of these apprenticeships was my way into the business, and it absolutely was. I would not be here in Chicago if it weren't for my time at the Rep, and if it weren't for Jeff specifically. So I had a wonderful time, and understudying as an apprenticeship, I think, is a brilliant way to get a first-person view of what the professional world is really like. And I was someone who had been yearning for that for years and hadn't been in a place where I could receive that in basically any capacity. And again, I want to say, don't get me wrong, I love my program. My professors and mentors there are amazing. But the specifically business professional side of it, I just had a complete gap in my knowledge. So it was so phenomenal. We would show up every day. We'd have rehearsals where we would sit just in the room and watch the principal actors and the directors, assistant directors, just do all of their work throughout the show, starting with the table reads, table work, talking about character backgrounds, all of the above. And it was such a wonderful learning experience. The first show I was in was Dial M for Murder, and I got to understudy the phenomenal Amanda Drinkall. I admire her so much, and she was a really big part of my experience there, as well as honestly the whole Dial M for Murder cast, but specifically also Alex Wiseman. They kind of took me under their wing a little bit.
Can you talk about what that looks like? What when you say, she took you under her wing, what does that look like in practice?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I didn't really know what to expect, but from day one, Jeff was very encouraging of being like, if there are people that you want to pick their brain, just ask them, and they'll usually say yes. And so having that sort of permission to do that from the beginning really informed my whole time at the Rep, because it gave me the confidence to ask people directly. I asked if I could have a coffee with Amanda and Alex, and I was just asking them how did you get to where you were? They were the ones who, in just chatting with them, encouraged me to move to Chicago. because I am from Minnesota and was originally thinking after the apprenticeship I would go back to Minneapolis because the Twin Cities have a great theater scene there. But in talking with Amanda and Alex and talking about their careers and their trajectories, they both just highly, highly recommended Chicago and that I give it a try. So they would offer me just advice, help me with some of my many anxieties at the time. I felt like a fish out of water for a little bit just because I felt like because of my tiny background, I had a lot of imposter syndrome of like all these people are so well trained in their craft. They all have BFAs and Julia has met Dave Malloy and like all these and so I felt like a little bit imposter syndrome, and they kind of helped me talk. I mean, Jeff did a lot of that, of talking me down and being like, you deserve to be here just as much as anyone else. You went through the same audition process. You have the same right to be here as they do. And that's kind of the through line of all of the people who I would consider my mentors from the Milwaukee Rep, is just people who not only encouraged me to learn more, but offered me advice and reassured me that I did belong here. And that just, it meant the world to me. And it was game changing because I hadn't had people in the business tell me, you deserve to be here. You are good enough to be here. This can be a space for you too. And that was just something I wanted to hear since I was like 6. So it was, it meant the world to me.
I find, Mizha, I knew that Amanda and Alex had a keystone part of your moving to Chicago, but I knew when we had our first connection that you were going to go to Chicago. I knew it. I think I went back and looked at my notes and I was like, where do you want to be, or what's your dream idea of where you would end up? And I had a feeling that, given your Midwestern sensibility, as we've talked about so much early here, I was like, Chicago is where you will land. And I had that feeling. And a big part of my job, I would say is in this mentorship. I always say that I am the defense against the dark arts teacher here at Milwaukee Rep. And, one of the dark arts being imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And helping Mizha and all the EPRs who come through here understand that imposter syndrome can be flipped. Like, you can turn that imposter syndrome into a learning syndrome, right? Like, I am not here to be comparing myself. I am here to be learning from this room. What's the most important thing I can learn in this room? And that is where, when people like you, Mizha, who flipped that and said, I'm going to learn from Amanda and Alex, whoop, here I am. And now look at where you are, because you turned your imposter syndrome on its head.
Okay, I'm starting to get emotional now. I think that truly, that means so much to me. And and Jeff was instrumental in that switch of like, and Jeff, and specifically something my dad always says to me is just like, learn as much as you can in any room that you're in, and try to always find extra ways to go out of your way to be helpful to people. It did start off like a little bit rocky with the imposter syndrome, but I'm really, really proud of my time at the Rep. I met so many wonderful people who took the time to teach me skills and teach me valuable like career information, and just got to meet these professionals who I look up to, who I now can be fortunate enough to call friends. It was just so lovely. And I did want to say, building off of what you mentioned, a big part of the apprenticeship versus being like hired as an understudy is having Jeff as the mentor, because we would have like, I believe it was one at the beginning, one at the middle, and one at the end, like a sort of sit down, not quite interview, but like maybe like a one-on-one, check-in. And where Jeff at the beginning sat us down and we were like, what are your career goals? What are your goals for this apprenticeship? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? what do you want to be doing 5 years from now? And he took the answers that we all gave him, and he went out of his way to find people that could help us get there and connect us with those people. Because a big goal of mine is to someday write musicals. I've written several plays, and I wanted to get in touch with a playwright. And Jeff said, I know the perfect person. And he set me up with a Zoom call with Michael Dougherty, and we had a lovely, lovely conversation. And yeah, he said he connected me with a voiceover artist and helped me, figure out Chicago life, and just, he's like the ultimate, what I'm like trader, not trader, but like TRADER, not stab you in the back trader. Like he'll be like the middleman of like, oh, you want this? I know someone who can get it for you, and I'm gonna put them in contact with you. You want to accomplish this? Let's do it. I'm gonna give you the resources. Like he just made everything possible. Like I had a goal that I really wanted to sort of workshop a musical that I was working on, and we ended up running out of time because we were just so busy with the apprenticeship. But Jeff was like, I can get you connected with playwrights. I can get you connected with like a rehearsal space if you want to practice stuff. Like, let me know what you need and I can get it for you. And he was very encouraging of everyone in the cohort to do like individual personal projects. And I think that was also a huge element where you wouldn't get any of that. And I know now professionally, you don't get any of that when you are a hired understudy. So it really is a lot. It's less of a job and more of a learning experience. And just so thankful. And when you are looking for things to learn, there are an endless number of opportunities. And Jeff is the person who opens those doors.
Jeff, talk about how you structure those conversations, those sort of lines of thinking. You know, I mean, obviously it comes from being a good listener, right? And being a connected person who can trade. Although I would love to see you dressed in a kilt with an Alan Cumming Scottish brogue as the host of Traders,
so
but
good.
I know that's not what you meant. But I did get that image in my head.
How do your listeners not know that's what I'm wearing right now, in fact?
I mean, you could be. I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, right. You know, how do we do it? You know, ultimately, I made this choice to make, well, when I came into the program, I wanted to really make sure that these individuals who were coming in were not walking away saying, I got nothing out of this, or I did not spend my time wisely, or those sorts of things. And so individuals who come in, I try to provide that level of structure. And so it does take some structure and scaffolding to say, hey, even if we don't, you do not have to hit these goals. It is up to you if you hit these goals. What I can do is I can like lead you to some things, but you have to drink the water, right? And so I end up leading people to a lot of places, and some folks like didn't follow through. Some folks, I will say that I've had folks who like sat on their Nintendo Switch in the rehearsal hall, and I'm like, that's a choice and not necessarily going to serve you in your next steps. But what I will say is not in the rehearsal hall, but like, you know, instead of activating what they can be doing in their downtime, they're sort of, you know, letting it slip away. And I'm like, make every minute of downtime your uptime while you can. That's not to say like burn yourself out while you're here, but it is to say take advantage of the resources that you can have while you're here. As Mizha said, you know, we can find lots of people and connections to be made to lead to your next steps. And so I highly encourage individuals, all of the EPRs, to find the people who are there and who have done the thing that you want to do, because they're going to tell you how to get to that place or how to do that. And so, yeah, we have that first sit down. And Mizha, I don't know if this, I feel like we did this, but I also have all of them fill out this survey with 25 qualities. And in these 25 qualities, it can be everything from like, what's the most important to you on a scale of pick pick 10 of these qualities which are very important to you. And then out of those 10, pick 5. And out of those 5, pick 3. And those top 3 are the things that are really important to you. Is it financial success? Is it artistic success? Is it family? Is it recognition? What are the things that you yourself want to get in your future, in your career? And so someone who has they want to be recognized has much different goals than maybe someone who puts family in their top 5, right? Or in their top 3. And so it could be so this is sort of, for me, a litmus test for all of them, where I get to see these things are really important to you. I'm going to help you accomplish, I'm going to help you get you closer to those 3 things that you feel are really important to you. And so from that very first meeting where I asked them to fill out that survey to the very end, I'm checking in on their goals. We come in the middle of the year. Okay, you've done these things. What'd you learn from that moment? Great. What are you still hoping to learn? Great. You're about to leave. You were just learning about how to get here. Now you have to learn about how to leave here. Where are you going to land? What do you want to land on? How big of a ripple do you want to make when you land, right? If you're going to go to New York, you're going to make a small ripple. If you go to, right? If you're going to go to Tulsa, maybe you're going to make a big, huge splash when you get there, right? Because you are going to come out of this amazing program. It's one of those things where you have no idea where you're going. Hopefully where you land is where you're going to make your biggest splash, and where you want to go and what is really driving you is helpful in those sorts of conversations. And then along the way, we also hold something called forums. And these forums are basically workshops with professionals from across the country about what it means to do your taxes as an independent contractor, or what's it really like as an understudy on Broadway, or oh gosh, we do so many. How do we build our own brand, right? How do we market ourselves as artists? Go ahead.
We had
Agents.
agents. We had a forum that Jeff led about ensemble acting, and we had forums about taxes, and this was all incredibly helpful to me because, like I said, I had never heard any of these before. I didn't know anything. We had a whole forum about the actors union. I knew extraordinarily little about that. These forums happen every Friday, and they were just like classes for the business side, the professional side of the theater world, which is extraordinarily helpful for someone like me who hadn't had that experience before. Yeah. Shout out to the Friday forums. Love those guys.
Yeah, contract negotiation, all kinds of things where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed to know this, or now I do.
Hey friends, if you're enjoying this podcast, you should go check out Teaching Through Emotions. It's a Women Who Podcast award-winning show that provides a rare form of relief for educators. Rare because it looks at bad feelings and bad behavior as meaningful and useful rather than something to avoid. Betsy Burris, teacher, educator, and psychotherapist, and Joe Johnson, longtime Spanish teacher, share stories of real-life terrible teaching moments sprinkled with commentary and a ton of empathy, then show you how to transform those moments into happy endings. You also get to hear interviews with remarkable people about their unique takes on education. Episodes come out every 2 weeks. Listen to build up your psychodynamic muscles by hearing about other brave teachers' wins when they thought nothing, absolutely nothing, would change. You can find Teaching Through Emotions wherever you get your podcasts. Hey! Jeff, is casting the shows impacted by the existence of this program? In other words, does the rep look for actors that you and they think will be generous and generative in these roles?
Ooh, I want to hear the answer too.
Oh man. Yes. So when we start thinking about shows for a following season, we're thinking about how many roles can be filled by EPRs. And ultimately it sort of determines a lot of numbers for us. And I hate to say it, but it does end up becoming a numbers game in some ways. But we do know that one of the things we know is that we take a certain amount of EPRs to be on stage in A Christmas Carol. Every year, next year, 2025 will be our 50th anniversary of A Christmas Carol here at Milwaukee Repertory Theater.
Is it a 50th year.
It's
Now
what? It's a
you've
good question.
revealed.
You know what? You're tricky like that. Good. No, it is the 50th anniversary. So far as I know, we've been doing it for 50 years. And so the long and the short of it is we've always had X amount of EPRs in that production. And so that number sort of dictates how many we have throughout the season. And then we sort of look at the rest of the season and say, okay, so here are the roles that are potential for EPRs, and here are the roles that are potential for EPRs. And like I said, sometimes, that might mean we don't. I'm always looking for tap dancing unicorns, right? I'm looking for someone who can do this role and this role and this role and this role, right? All of them are very different, but we need this person to be able to have that sort of range to do these things. If you are not a tap dancing unicorn, we can't put you in that role. Sorry. And so I have to find with Misha's class, I had to find 8 tap dancing unicorns to be the right roles and the right people and could play multiple roles in multiple shows throughout the season. So yeah, it is a game where we're sort of trying to figure out, can they do all the roles that they're going to be assigned? And I feel very fortunate that we've had a lot of really amazing people apply. And I've every year after year, I'm like, ooh, are we going to do it this year? And we're like, yeah, we did it. We did it again. We did it again. And so it's really great to see people show up and we're like, yes, we can cast this. We can make this happen.
I love your answer to that question. And I was actually asking a slightly different question. And now I'm even more curious, which is the folks who end up taking on these mentorship roles, are they considered, like, do you consider whether they will make good mentors as part of their consideration for being cast in roles? So it sounds like these folks do some work for the EPRs, and I can imagine that there are actors and directors like yourself who are not only kind, but pedagogical in their approach. And then I can imagine incredible professional actors who are not, or who are not interested in such a thing. Is that part of how people are cast because of this amazing program you have?
So just so I'm clear, you're asking, are the people that they are under, the overstudies, the people that they are understudying, are they coached to be pedagogically, are they coached to be mentors to people like Mizha who show up?
Yes. Or are they, or when you're deciding to cast somebody, are you like, this person's real good, but I would not put them with a young person, for as a mentor.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I misunderstood.
No, it's great. I loved
your
answer. Now we're going to get both sides of it. So I think that's great.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. We're really lucky that the people who come to Milwaukee Rep really want to be here, and the actors who are here have always really wanted to be here. Sometimes you get that person who maybe is hands off or is a little standoffish before the show opens, and you just have to respect process, right? And that's a conversation I have with Mizha or other folks. So I'm like, hey, you're understudying this person. They might not, it's okay if someone says, I don't have time right now. I need to be, and this is how my process works, and that's okay. Sometimes directors don't have a history of working with the understudies until ever, right? They might not meet the understudies. They might not get to connect with them. And so when we're saying, hey, this director is really cool and you really ought to know them, because when you move to that location where they've directed before, they'll remember you. It's XYZ, right? And so we do encourage them to connect with them as much as possible. And insofar as like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about what it's like to work in South Carolina. Amazing. Yeah, let's talk. But you know what? It's okay for all of us to set up our boundaries. And it's okay for actors to set up boundaries and say, hey, I can't talk about that right now. Or directors to be like, you know what? Let's talk. Let's save this conversation for like our Monday off, or let's get coffee sometime. But right now I really got to focus on working on this transition, right? And so we do not necessarily consider, is this going to be a pedagogical institution here at Milwaukee Rep? Our goal is to make work that entertains, provokes, inspires the city of Milwaukee. And so, we do that by the means possible. It just so happens that we have really, like Mizha was saying, we just happen to have sometimes some of the most generous actors and directors I've ever happened to meet while I've worked here. Has been really wonderful.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even though the actors cast are not hired to be mentors specifically, it was a beautiful surprise that the majority of them were happy to take that role and happy to take on some of the extra work of just, well, not even extra work, but the extra energy it takes to be encouraging, to be kind, to be open to newbies, asking them silly little questions, and so generous with their time. And that, I feel like that's just, the Milwaukee Rep hires good people. Maybe not specifically people who are mentors, but just good people who are willing to be generous with their energy and their time.
I don't want to presume too much, but all of us have been somewhere now, right? We've all been in a place where we now have the experience and can now speak to others with at least experience to say, hey, here's how I did it. And everyone is sort of really excited to be like, hey, I remember what it was like to be you. And quite frankly, Mizha, I went through a program. I know you know this story, but I went through a program like this too, right? And it took, it took someone to say yes to me too from small town Minnesota, and had to say, hey, you deserve to be here. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to meet these people. And it's because of that generosity that it happens, right? But we all love to be asked. We all love to be asked, hey, how'd you do what you do? Right? When you read that beautiful intro about me, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of do some of those things, but I do, right? But it's so good it's so good. Now I can share things about those experiences, and I love to do that. And that's what makes me the trader, right? Like, I'm there because I've met people. I'm making these connections. I want to make these connections. That's what I want. People want to connect you to their agent, to their networks, et cetera, et cetera. We're all excited to bring you along and into this theatrical world.
Yeah, and the web of the program goes past Milwaukee Rep too, because like there have been many times while I'm auditioning here in Chicago or doing gigs in Chicago where I'll work with people who are like, hey, I was an EPR back when they called us interns. Like I'm really, really fortunate and very excited. I have a gig coming up for this next slot of time. I'm not sure if I'm able to like technically disclose what it is, but when I did my callback, the director saw my resume and they're like, "You were an EPR? So was I." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, no way, that's crazy!" And so yeah, and just people who know the program and who have gone through it, it's like an instant connection. It's so cool.
That kind of social capital, I think, is super meaningful and I was going to say underrated, and maybe that's not quite the right word for it, but it's certainly under-acknowledged as a hugely important part of both career but also identity. I mean, you both spoke really eloquently about how, specifically for you, Mizha, but it sounds like for a lot of the folks that go through this program, that this is kind of an identity-making process and project. And, identity is both an individual characteristic and also a social and cultural characteristic, right? And so being a member of a community is part of an identity. And I absolutely think that is, a powerful aspect of your identity now that you carry forward with you.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like it has showed itself almost immediately as, oh, Mizha, she's good people. She did this thing. She knows what I know, which I think is a really important aspect of identity making.
Yeah, I just feel so lucky to be a part of this community because, like, when I was applying for programs, I never thought it would have this kind of outcome of it. Like, I say this kind of a lot to my family, but it's like built-in friends. Like, you'll go somewhere and just from like seeing a name or somebody mentioning a program or something, you just get these built-in friends, and it's I just feel so lucky. It's one of the biggest surprises to me is how small the theater world is. And being at the Rep has helped me visualize that more, because I'll mention, oh, I was at the Rep program, and even if it's someone who wasn't a part of the program, like they knew someone who went through the program. So they'll be like, oh, so do you know so-and-so? And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I do. That's crazy. And it's just been incredible to watch like my friends get the good accolades that they deserve and go on to do amazing things that they're passionate about.
I was also just going to say, I think the world, it's hard to be a human right now. I feel like we talk about that a lot on this podcast because for me, one of the reasons I do this, frankly, is to give listeners a way into how we make being human as artists, how we make being human easier and better for one another and for our communities. And I think this is an amazing example of that, right? It makes being a young human living in a big city just a better thing to be.
Yes,
a more
absolutely. It definitely, it feels a little bit like a fairy tale. Like a lot of the things in my life have just like aligned perfectly for this transition into Chicago. And yeah, having that sort of built-in community helped so much.
Yeah. One of the other dark arts that I defend against is you got to get experience to have experience, I think. And so I spend, I fully recognize that some of these circles are hard to get into, that getting into a program like this, just as any MFA, ME, doctoral program, any program that requires an application process, there are barriers, there are levels of hoops you have to jump through, and I fully realize that, and the privileges that go along with that at times. But what I feel really great about is that when I do get to have people and I do bring in mentees like the folks that I get to bring in into the program, is that we're giving you the tools to go out and do this yourself. And now you will be out there and you will know what it's like to have gone through something like this, and you will have the greater empathy and able to like enabling others as well. And so I really find that to be the most satisfying part of this position, is being like, hey, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I hadn't had somebody say the same yes to me, right? And so it's like I get to say yes to you all, and that makes me feel really proud and really excited.
Yeah, and even just like staples of the career, like Jeff personally looked at my resume and helped me make edits to make it the most polished version and most successful version that it could be. And it's still the version that I use right now. Like because I had never had a class about what to put on a resume, anything like that. And Jeff personally went through all my stuff and helped me with that. And because of that, I was able to send it out to places and get hired and get work and get more experience. Like, yeah, just incredible.
Did you go on at all during your year understudying? Yeah.
I went on for Christmas Carol. So I was in Dial-M for Murder, Christmas Carol, and Little Women. The only one I went on for was Christmas Carol. But it was such a wonderful experience for Christmas Carol, so we're also understudies, but we're also in the ensemble. So we got to be on the stage of the Pabst Theater, which in and of itself is like a startlingly beautiful space. The first day we went in there, I cried. I was like, I can't believe I'm here. There's photos of me with like Daniel and Carmen and Liz just being like, they're like this, and I'm just like, just wiping tears away. There was a point where, unfortunately, and I feel so bad for them, but they're healthy now, a portion of the Christmas Carol cast did come down with COVID. So a good handful of us EPRs went on that season. It was so again, going back to the learning experience, not only was it like, oh, I get to be a principal character in this timeless story on this like beautiful sparkling golden stage, it was also like I have, in a controlled environment, in a safe environment, a place to learn what it's like to be an understudy that gets called in, because I hadn't had that experience before. My school didn't have understudies, so I had never experienced like getting the phone call of like, we need you tonight, you're on. And to have that in the safe, controlled structured environment of the rep definitely set me up for, like, way past set me up for in my next several contracts where I did understudy and did go on. Like, I had a show last fall. I was in a production of The Secret Garden at Theo, and I understudied 3 different roles. And I wouldn't have had any idea like how to handle that if it wasn't for my time at the rep. And then when you get the call and you're like, you're going on tonight, it's so easy to freak out. But I was like, I've done this before. I can take it. It's cool. We got this.
Jeff, how satisfying is that to hear her talk about it like that?
I swoon. It's so good. I always tell it's one of the first conversations we have with the EPRs when they get here is what's it like to understudy, because so many of them may not have had understudying experience. It may be their first time coming into a situation like that. And, I haven't come across a true way to teach understudying without doing it, right? Which is what so much of the ethos of this program. You don't know it. You don't know regional theater until you do it. You don't know this kind of process until you do it. You don't know this kind of theater until you do it, right? There's so much that is only experiential. And so a big part of hearing folks say, yeah, I did it, and then I can do it. And now I can do it, right? It's such a superpower. Now you have a superpower, Mizha. You have this. And all the EPRs who've gone on, right? I mean, you saved the day. I remember...
It weirdly does feel like you're a superhero a little bit. It's kind of a adrenaline rush, crazy feeling. But that the emphasis that the rep puts on hands-on experience learning is invaluable to anyone's career, and specifically the process at the rep.
Yeah.
The moment when an understudy goes on, it's like seeing the whole cast and crew like snap into go mode. Right now I'm in a production of Amelie the Musical with Co-Candy Productions. And this past weekend we had 2 of our swings go on. And it's so impressive and so exciting to see these people who show up, all of their stuff is learned, and then whatever else help they need, the cast is fully like, we're here, we're going to support you. The crew is on top of it. Like when I went on for Secret Garden, I had a day where 2 of the 3 of my actors I was understudying were out. So we had to figure out how to do a split track between 2 different roles. And the first hour I got to the theater because I got there early, and our stage manager and one of my overstudies, we sat down and we're like, how can we figure this out? I got to meet with the assistant music director for a while and talk through music, because the one day that was my split track happened to be the day where our dance captain and our music director were out. So like just the whole team like assembled and we're like, how can we make this show work? And it's just like, if we're talking about Jeff being the like expert of ensemble work, when an understudy goes on is like a prime example of like a ensemble of actors, of workers coming together to create art and to make things just work. And it's so inspiring every single time.
I talk a lot in my book about how in school spaces or other teaching and learning spaces, collaboration ought to be an outcome and not just a thing that we do to get to the thing that we really care about, which is like every kid does well on their math test, right? Like the group project is actually not collaboration in the way that we as artists think about it. And this series of examples for me is such a illustration of that. And also y'all have made me think about like how to think about the understudy as like a student role. Like what would it look like to think about a student-teacher relationship in an understudy-overstudy relationship, and how does that metaphor help us think differently and better about teaching and learning?
Oh, I love that. The idea of thinking of your teacher as an overstudy. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
You all have inspired that. That's my next think piece.
There you go.
I want to wrap us up, and before I do, I want to ask each of you, and I'll give you a hot second to think about it, to tell me what is the most impactful either piece of advice or experience that you've had with one another that you take with you into your practice. I'll give you a minute. I know this is a big question. This is one of those teacher questions where you ask something profound and then all the students sit and stare at you because it's a difficult one. So I'll talk through it.
If you don't mind me going first, me hopping in.
Go for it.
I feel
Do
like
it.
I've spoken on it throughout this whole session of just the amount of encouragement and reassurance and just joy that Jeff brings to what my life was and currently is. Like, I needed that person to say yes to me, and I didn't know if I would ever get that person, and that was Jeff for me. And not only did he say yes to someone with like 0 credentials and just a ambition and a dream, when I got there, he really paved the way for me to walk and set me up for as much success as possible, and did it with so much care and kindness, because that's just as important. The kindness is just as important as the action of putting me in touch with so and so or getting me on this stage. Like, I learned so much at my time at the Rep, and Jeff unlocked all of that for me, and I just could not be any more grateful, because I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be sorry, I'm like starting to get one. I wouldn't be doing what I've dreamed about since I was a kindergartner if it weren't for Jeff. So I'm very, very grateful.
Oh man. Oh, Mizha, thank you. Thank you for that so much.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you. On nuts.
I'm
it's
sorry.
happening.
It's happening. This question was a
Yeah.
trap. This question was meant to make us cry.
Yeah. I feel like I had something and I lost it while I was listening to you, and I feel awful that I'm
Sorry.
dancing now. No, this is so good. This is so good. Mizha, I think what I learned from working with you were the first cohort that I took that were all my own. I didn't inherit anybody. I got to bring in everyone based on my viewing of your videos and
I
not
didn't know
your
that.
audition videos and whatnot, and not necessarily, I read all your materials, not necessarily things that were like sort of handed to me, applications that
Yeah.
were handed to me of here's some people. And I think I learned in that year, like, that it was so important that you and that all of the EPRs and all the folks that I mentor, that you have to speak what you want into existence. You have to speak it. Because then when I was out looking for the next group of EPRs for the following year, I was meeting people. Even then, I was becoming a trader again. I was networking. I was creating community on your behalf. I remember one thing you said to me is like, I'd love to know what it's like to work in the West End. And when I'm out, I'm in January, I'm at Erda's and I meet someone who's there from the West End. And I'm like, hey, will you talk to my EPR, right? And so these connections are meant to be made, but it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't have said it out loud. And so my thing that I learned from working with you in that moment is, it seemed really obvious to say it now, but I learned that if you hadn't spoken the things that you wanted out loud, we wouldn't have been able to make the connections that you wanted. And I think that was a really beautiful thing to watch that come to fruition and to watch you grow and move and shake right now. So thank you. Thank you for
Thank you
teaching
so
me that.
much. Thank you. And that's something that that's kind of a theme. That's kind of crazy because that's kind of a theme that's been on my mind recently of because I'm a high anxiety person, if you can't tell, and in the past and something still currently, I'm learning to advocate for the things you want and just ask. And you were a big proponent of starting that journey of like, you can just, if you want something, you can ask for it. The worst they'll say is no or not right now. But if you don't ask, the chance is not gonna appear to get it ever. So you were so encouraging of just, ask and we'll do what we can. And seeing that for the rest of my cohort too. And I also really quick just want to thank you. It's so cool to hear that our cohort was the first one that was like your picks, because every single person in our cohort was amazing. Like, and we still talk all the time. Like I text the people in my cohort constantly. I mean, I'm terrible at texting and messaging, but when I do text, a lot of times it is to my friends that you gave me through that selection process. So thank you. Because, built-in friends and friends that still mean so much to me. So thank you.
Well,
thank you.
Mizha and Jeff, thank you both for spending the time with us today, for sharing your experiences, for representing the Midwest. I'm so happy to have Team Midwest in the house.
You betcha.
Two things that really stood out to me in this conversation. And Doug, I'm curious if you have thoughts about either of these ideas that came up for me. The first one is, I love that in their conversation about mentoring around the business of theater, yes, there were some technical, here's how you get an agent, here's how you think about contracts, but most of it was about social capital building and business as becoming a part of a community, both a community of peers. So I love how this program has a cohort of young people that become your community of artists, but also the social capital you get from being around artists who've been in the business longer than you, and the identity making that accompanies becoming part of a community. So that was kind of the first thing that stood out to me, was how learning the business of theater is as much about developing your identity as a member of a community as it is about kind of the technicalities of what it means to have a life in the business or have a life, as a theater professional.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool to hear from them. It's not unlike when I'm making a film, how I'll often have a production assistant or a PA or even an intern who just kind of shadows me, and that's not just for the film. It'll often carry over multiple, and so they just absorb, and they don't have to stay with me. They can run off and play with art department. They can they can spend time in camera department, and it's what I did when I was coming up in the film industry too. It's like I spent basically a year of my life unpaid back then, just like absorbing and being in this in a setting that I had nothing to do but absorb. And it was
And I love about this program that they've professionalized it and that these are paid interns. I think that's a really important, amazing feature of this program that I hope doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
The other thing that I really resonated with or thought was super interesting was the whole conversation about understudies and understudying as superhero job, and the idea, it had never occurred to me before that understudying is in the theater a pretty common first job, but that nobody teaches you how to be an understudy. And the idea that the understudy is essentially the mentee position, and the overstudy, which is also a word I've never heard before, which I'm going to try to use in my daily life. The overstudy is the mentor. And I was really inspired by thinking about what would it look like to think about a teacher as an overstudy. And how would that change the relationship between a student and a teacher if you thought of it as understudy and overstudy?
Yeah, the way they framed that, it provided so much clarity on the inherent nature of the symbiosis in arts education. Like there is no universe where it's just like one side gleaning from the other. It's necessarily always back and forth. And they had such clarity about that within the understudy program, within the mentorship program.
Yes, and I love also that kind of. I do not want to use a made up word, but de-hierarchicalizes is what I thought of. It dispels the idea of a hierarchy between the teacher as all-knowing and the student as the one who needs to, absorb the knowledge, but that the understudy is learning how to step in should they need to, with the understanding that they're probably going to need to. And the overstudy is learning how to demonstrate what it means to step in. I thought that was a really exciting framing for arts education that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah. So Erica, I have a question for you.
Yes, Doug. What could it be?
If I think Mizha's around 25, if 25-year-old you were understudying with 45-year-old you, can you tell me 3 things that you feel would be essential to be passed one way or the other?
Yes. How to deal with incompetent colleagues without getting frustrated.
1.
How to make your schedule so that you can get a nap in every day.
That's 2.
That one day you will be a parent to someone who is almost your age, and to not freak out about it.
3 things.
I don't know if those are great lessons learned for 25-year-old me, but 25-year-old me doesn't exist anymore, so sorry, old me. Doug, I have a question for you. What are 3 ways that our incredible listeners can get and stay involved with our show?
Oh, I know those. You can like, subscribe, follow us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's 1.
Yes. And you can also visit our website, artseducatorspodcast.com, where you can even submit ideas for guests there. It's true. And then you can also
what
just
if I hate websites?
Oh, if you hate websites, you can also write to
what
us
can I do?
with comments at just an email address, artseducatorspodcast@gmail.com.
I love email. That's my favorite. Yeah. Onward together.
Arts Educators Save the World is hosted by Erica Rosenfeld Halverson and produced and co-hosted by me, Alec Lev.
Our executive producer is Doug Matica, and our audio producer is Justin Asher. Special thanks to our collaborators, the brilliant and talented Kate Baldwin, and our great friends at Story Pirate Studios, Lee Overtree, Benjamin Salka, and Amy Fiore. Original music is by Dan Lipton, and our artwork is by Lyra Evans. Check out our website designed by Cole Locasio at www.artseducatorspodcast.com. We're on Instagram at Arts Educators Podcast, and you can write to us with your questions and comments at contact@artseducatorspodcast.com. You can also find us at a place called YouTube. And wherever you're listening, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. It really helps the show. We're proud to be sponsored in part by the University of Wisconsin-Madison and the Gibb Faculty Fellowship. Arts Educators Save the World was created by Erica Rosenfeld Halverson and Alec Lev.